Conservation Commission meeting for November the 10th, 2022. We as a commission operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After each applicant presents his or her request and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project, we'll accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and address first. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all other meeting attendees. This includes the members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, and property owners and project applicants. We also request that you confine your questions to the project and only as it pertains to the Wetlands Act. We cannot handle, nor do we have jurisdiction over other matters such as noise or traffic. All problems not related to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Danvers Wetlands Protection Bylaw must be taken up with other appropriate boards. First order of business is roll call. Peter Wilson is here. Vanessa Curran.
Here.
Chelsea King.
Here.
Ann McGill.
Here.
Michael Splain.
Yeah.
All right, the first order of business on our agenda is for 5 Cortlandt Road, DEP file number 14-1393. Commissioner Chelsea will recuse herself as she's familiar, she's friends with the applicant.
I'll be back.
All right.
Sir.
Good evening. For the record, Greg Hockmuth from Williams and Sparagus, here presenting the applicant for the notice of intent filed for 5 Cortlandt Road. This is our third public hearing. The last public hearing, we went over the project, and I believe we continued so that Mr. King could provide comments back to the commission with respect to the project and how it relates to the easement. It's my understanding that that was done. I'd be happy to go through the project again if the commission would like, or answer any additional questions the commission might have.
Now, so we've seen Stephen's statement says the suitability of the easement as this design allows. So that satisfies your request, Mike?
Well, just, so you're okay with the chain link fence, which allows the water to pass through?
Yeah, I mean, a condition requiring a fence that doesn't prohibit the flow of water, I think, is more than acceptable.
Is that the fence gonna be for the pool? The pool
Yeah,
fence?
she's not clear on exactly what type of fence she's going to put in yet, but she does understand that there's a strict code with respect to the type
Yeah,
of fence
you
that's...
check with staff on that before it was done. But I would like to ask, if I could ask Steve, you added a requirement that the pool be taken down every year before November. Could you say what the reasoning is for that?
Good evening, Steve King, Town Engineer for Town of Danvers. To answer your question, it's really related to having a permanent versus temporary structure. I want to make it explicitly clear that in the easement, we only want temporary structures that can be removed in case in an emergency or if we need to get access to anywhere in the back of that swale or drainage easement. To allow something that's permanent there would kind of be going against what permanent easement stands for our access in the future.
Could it be classified as temporary and not be taken down every year? I'm wondering is, I mean, there's gonna be 10,000 gallons of water or more in there. Where is that gonna go? It just be dumped out, or?
I believe they have an environmental plan to dechlorinate the pool at the end of the season. And once that's dechlorinated and it's down to your normal chlorine levels and
Yeah, 'cause we
groundwater
had talked
levels.
before, they were just gonna drain it below the skimmer and keep the pool up, but that means every year they'll have to dump that water. Was that a concern at all?
No.
No?
That's what most people do when they drain their pools anyways. I've seen them dechlorinate and then discharge it.
Yeah, but most people don't take their pool down once, every year, right?
Yeah, they have there's a permanent structure, but they do drain a considerable amount of water from their pools. So the structure of this is small and similar in type. I just don't want to have anything permanently in that easement.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Quick question maybe for staff. Every year when they re-erect this pool, do they have to have a building permit?
Yes, they do.
So that means they have to come back in front of us every year for this as well.
No, so the order of conditions can cover the work in that permanent place for the pool as shown on this approved plan. So if she were to install the pool and have a building permit showing the pool somewhere else, closer to the wetland, outside of the fenced area, not in that dedicated area, then it would be in violation of her permitted area.
Okay, so they don't have to come back to us? is
Yeah,
the
she does
requirement.
not need to come back for an order of conditions every time she puts the pool up, but she does need to go for a building permit with the building department.
Okay. And they didn't do that this past season, is that correct?
What was that
They
question?
didn't apply for a building permit?
No, that was the issue that also stemmed from in addition to the wetlands issue, there was no building permit, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mike, are you all set with questions?
Yes.
Vanessa, do you have any questions?
I have a question again for Steve, if you don't mind, sorry. Thank you. So you said the distinction of having the pool taken down was so that would be considered a temporary structure in the easement instead of permanent structure. So with the fence, if there's a fence in the easement, I know there's, discussion that if it's chain link, then water can flow through, but are you looking for, if you need access to the easement, are you looking for a gate or something in that fence to gain access? Because that would be more like
no.
a permanent structure, right?
No, we do allow fences.
Allow fence.
We allow
Okay.
fences and easements.
Okay.
If it's a chain link fence, that's something that can easily be cut and rolled in a moment's notice if we need to get access to it, and the
Okay.
posts are easily reset.
Okay.
Pools are a little bit different in nature as far as deconstructing and constructing them.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
All set?
Yes.
Ann, any questions?
Just on the maintenance statement every year, is that just from the homeowner, or is that a professional coming in to make the maintenance statement every year that's required here?
So I had suggested that condition.
Oh, okay, so it's-
And I would leave that up to the Conservation Commission. If you want to require that the applicant hire someone to write that letter, what I had envisioned it would be, there's no obstructions, everything is in good, working, normal condition,
right,
pool's taken down, it's where it said it should be. Or, a tree branch fell, we need to remove it, that's what the letter would entail. But that's up to the commission, the threshold of who should provide that letter.
okay, thank you. That's-
All set?
Yeah, yeah.
Just
We think we'll have more,
what's the reasoning for the letter?
well, that's part of the conditions.
So I had suggested that for the first 3 years after the approval's issued, that the homeowner just check in and, show us they are aware that they know the easement's there, the drainage is working, nothing's blocked, things are flowing correctly. And that just, keeps it fresh in their mind.
You
and-
want to monitor it for a while.
Exactly. And then after that, we require to contact the office if there's any maintenance needed to be done.
And they'd still be coming every year to the building inspector anyway.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any questions, comments from the public?
My name is Brendan Ty, 4 Meadow Lane. I guess the first question I would ask is in regards to the easement. I think we keep talking about the easement in terms of a general easement, and this property has recorded 2 easements. One is actually a maintenance easement.
Could you
and
speak up?
Sorry.
Yeah.
One of the easements is registered as a maintenance easement, which I understand, but the second one is a drainage easement, which is why the original complaint was filed. And I had an opportunity to speak with an engineer last week, and Peter, he agreed with you initially, and he said, wow, they did this without a permit. And then Mike, he agreed with you as well in terms of reducing the size of the base or footprint for the pool would be consideration, and also asked that there be, or suggested that there be a wall to retain the base of the pool so that it doesn't move in the future. And then he suggested that the flow of the water be straightened out. In looking at this base of the pool now, there seems to be a leg or a tail, I don't know what you would call it, and the water would have to go around it to get out. He suggested that the path of the water should be straightened out. Then he went home and did some research, and I have about 3 paragraphs. I will read it. Takes about 60 seconds. He said, "The 5 Cortlandt Road drainage easement protects the town of Danvers and the property owners whose land drains to that area by providing space to convey storm, stream flow, and stormwater runoff. Placement of fill and pool construction in the easement area was unpermitted in that both the State Wetlands Protection Act and Danvers Wetlands Protection bylaws require prior application, review, and approval. It is not clear that such fill placement conforms to performance standards or these acts in their regulations. We know from the photographs that the drainage easement that it occasionally floods and regularly carries stream flow towards Elliott. The drainage easement protects you, me in this case, and the other landowners whose properties drain to that easement. Any fill placed in the easement eliminates the protection. Restoration of the drainage easement to pre-pool construction grade and condition is needed to restore flood storage and stream flow capacity. It is not enough for an engineer to say that the conveyance of water through the drainage easement is adequate, even if calculations are provided showing adequate conveyance in a particular design storm. There will always be a storm more intense than calculated, or antecedent conditions worse than assumed. Any diminution of flood storage and stream flow capacity steals capacity intended to protect the abutters." And then after reading that, I went back to the notice of intent. In the notice of intent, page 7, question 7, is this project subject to provisions of the Mass DEP stormwater management standards? None of the boxes were checked. I believe the amount of land that was placed, or fill that was placed on this land, is in conflict. Guys,
That's your opinion, but we have professional people
We
that
have
tell
an
us it's
engineer
being
that can
done
respond,
correctly.
I understand that, but I'm saying, is the Massachusetts DEP involved, and have they reviewed it?
So the Mass DEP received a copy, and the stormwater standards aren't applicable for single-family home projects such as this. And I'll offer Greg to offer on the applicant's behalf if there's,
And can we receive copies of that?
of what?
The notice that was sent?
The notice, it sounds like you have a copy of the notice of intent. So what you had received is the same copy sent to the DEP.
No, I have a blank document.
Oh, okay. So yeah, their notice of intent application, I believe I emailed that to you with the plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It's not.
And so that box is empty only because they're not eligible and they don't have to check it because it's a single-family home.
Okay.
But Greg may know more on the actual subject matter of that.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to make it clear that we're not blocking the flow of water. Water will continue to go around this fill pile. And we're actually proposing finish grades that you can see with those little ovals, just to ensure that it's graded properly to make sure that water continues to go around that fill that was brought in. George is correct. Because this is a single-family home project, it's exempt from the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Standards. I do want to try one more time to keep the pool up year-round, with the understanding that it would come down if ever needed to come down. The client's well aware that there's an easement, the town has rights within that easement, and that someday the town could come through and all of that would have to go. And that could happen at any point in time. So obviously the client would like to be able to keep it up year-round, but if that is a deal breaker for the commission, we won't push any harder than that. But I did just want to try one more time.
I have a question about that. So theoretically, the pool stayed up year-round. They drained it below the skimmer. It's February. It's frozen solid. The town needs to go into the easement. It probably couldn't be easily moved or taken down at that point if it was filled with a giant block of ice.
It could come down, but it probably wouldn't be able to go back up because they'd have to damage it at that point, and
Okay.
that's what the client is willing to risk. With full understanding that the town could do whatever they want in that easement whenever they decide to.
Well, So I just would ask our engineer again, is the only point of making them take it down every year to keep it characterized as temporary, or do you have some other reason?
No, that's correct. I want to have it clear that this is a temporary situation and not a permanent one. I don't want any gray areas in the future if homeowners were to change, that they could interpret the actions of today and say that they could put a permanent pool structure there.
We could do that here, though, I think.
Make it permanent, or?
No, make sure that it's classified as temporary, regardless of whether it comes down or not.
And that'd be in perpetuity with the property?
Well, yeah, I guess it would have to be, wouldn't it? No. Well, I'm just thinking, the
That's my
idea
only
of
concern.
taking a
I've
pool.
run the
I
situation
don't know how much
before.
damage they do to the surroundings, just taking it down. I don't know what else they do, how much they have to dig or redig or put more sand down or all of that. Are they gonna change the levels or the flow of water, just the act of doing that every year?
Well, I think they have their set grades, and as the applicant's engineer spoke earlier, they've created a grading plan that they should be meeting every time to make sure water is flowing
Yeah.
around and through
But
that
how would
easement.
they do that? So they take the pool down, and then next year they have to put the pool back up. Do they have to bring someone in to make sure the grading's correct again? I mean, versus if it was just stays and,
Well, if there's any minor change or major change, it'd be in their best interest to have a surveyor or perform some work to make sure that they're hitting the grades they need to.
yeah, see, that seems burdensome. And a pain for us.
Yes.
But they
Uh,
don't but they don't
Quick
come back.
hypothetical question, Steve. Say some other homeowner with the drainage easement through their backyard like this decides they want a pool. And, they do everything properly, they go and get their permits and everything. Would that be a standard approval that they could build that pool in the easement with the understanding that it would have to come down if the town ever needed access to that easement?
I wouldn't recommend approving anything since I've been in the town as far as building a permanent structure in a permanent easement.
Okay. So
That-
I've
So
had a couple, I have had people come and request to see if they could build a pool within an easement. I found that their pool already built an easement, and I'm trying to work through that process of getting those either
Yeah.
pools removed or the easements moved, and it is, at a cost to the town to try and do that if we don't take care of it at this
Are
point,
those above-ground pools?
Yeah.
both above and in-ground.
And in-ground?
Hmm.
Wow.
Okay, so are we making an exception here, allowing a pool in that
I think we're
easement?
doing the best to work with what's out there right now.
There's
I
no
mean, you have
pool.
the option to move the pool out of the easement. I think the engineer's done the best that they could to make sure that they're still providing what the original intent of the easement
Yeah.
was and leave this temporary
Okay,
structure in place.
I guess that's not our decision to make, so we'll leave it at that.
So you know what, so maybe they have to take it down every year and they get tired of that and they move it out of the easement and put it in the front yard. Because who wants to do that every year?
Okay, is there any more public comment? Yeah?
Diane Brinkley, 6 Cortlandt Road. I know at the last meeting, someone on the commission asked the question as to why the pool at 5 Cortlandt Road was taken down. I think the answer is because the building inspector made them do it. The pool was filled with water for the better part of the summer with no proper fence around it at all.
Right.
Totally irresponsible for the homeowner. We have young children in that neighborhood, and as a matter of fact, for most of the summer, there were 2 children under the age of 7 living right next door. I really hope that if the homeowner puts up another pool, she installs a legal fence before an ounce of water goes in that pool. Quite honestly, I'm completely discouraged that the homeowners on Cortlandt Road think that they can do things with no regard to rules, and then when the town finds out about it, they then have to come before a board to ask for permission. So I asked the commission, don't allow this homeowner to change conservation land. There are rules set in place for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bradstreet?
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. At my age, I probably misunderstood. Is an in-ground pool a temporary subject or a structure? I understand an above-ground pool might be, but is an in-ground pool a temporary?
An in-ground pool would be permanent.
Okay, so there is a difference.
Yeah, an in-ground pool, if anyone wants to correct me, but we would consider that permanent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're only
Clarification.
considering above-ground temporary if it's taken down every year?
Correct.
Because it's in an easement. What if the above-ground was not an easement? Would it still be?
Well, an in-ground pool can be temporary, and an in-ground pool can be permanent, and an above-ground pool can be permanent if it's never removed. I mean, we're getting into
Yeah, I
wording
know.
and details here,
Nuances,
but I think having it taken down after it's used for the season provides that temporary basis. It has a start and an end time.
Okay. What's that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Kevin Gibbons, 76 Elliott Street, Precinct 3 Town Meeting Member. You can see there's a lot of neighbors here. I back right up to it, and the easement, the water easement goes through my yard from 5 Cortlandt over, through the Farmer's Wall and then back through what used to be the Dollar's property and behind the Brinkley's property. So am I concerned about this? Yes, because I've had it flood up. Well, one spring, everything flooded up to my back, almost the back of the house, and there was no water in the basement when I looked at it at that point. But when the ground thawed and things shifted, yeah, there was water in the basement. So I'm nervous about this, but the thing is that one of the things that's questioning is they put gravel in, and I don't see why you would put gravel under a pool. And they did it without a permit. Should they have to take the gravel out and replace it with sand? I don't know if that should be a request. Also, I'm listening to Mrs. Plain, and the temporary thing, I would always look at a above-ground pool as temporary, because eventually they're going to wear out, break, and you're going to drain it down for the next year. And I think I have no confidence that that's going to be done at all. I mean, that they would take it down every year. I just don't have any confidence in that whatsoever. Another thing that was mentioned is that what's been being done here seems to be on trying to get it done without using professional help. Like, I would like to see that it'd be professionally graded by somebody who's licensed, and also the person who puts up pools is professional too. I talked to Steve today, and I told him my concerns. I've talked to this gentleman too, and talked to him about his concerns. I don't really want to see the landowner like grading it or putting the pool up. I'd rather have somebody who is a professional, who is warranted, and the neighborhood has the confidence that it will be done right. As long as it's not in the floodplain and it doesn't affect the neighbors in the neighborhood, me getting flooded out again. I don't know which way to go on this. I just didn't like the way the 5 Cortlandt handled this at all as a neighbor. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks. It's just, I mean, they have a professional engineer that's saying that they're going to do it.
I've talked to him.
So I think we have to go on the presumption that they're going to make sure it's done correctly.
Well, I think we all hope so. So,
Yes, we certainly do.
You know, Matt, I want
Go
to
ahead,
ask
Mike.
another question. You know, I don't think we've ever, as a board, spent so much time on a swimming pool as we have with this one.
We're not done.
But I'm still wondering, what's going to constitute taking the pool down? Taking all the water out, removing the walls? What about the sand base and all that? Is that going to have to be scraped off? And
I would imagine that the base would stay and that the pool itself and the liner and everything would go.
so if you still have this sort of mounded area with sand, the pool's taken down, what will keep that from being washed off when it rains?
Yeah, so that'll be a stable base, and gravel is a good stable base. A lot of times they'll put gravel down, then they'll use sand
Yeah.
it's easier to work with. But that stable base will be surrounded by an area that's loamed and seeded. The slopes would be loamed and seeded, so that would be stable. And the base itself shouldn't move. They might have to add a little bit of sand to it every spring when they put the pool back up. But it's not like that base is going to melt into the ground as soon as the pool is gone. It's going to be a stable base that the slopes are
Because of
graded.
the gravel will hold the sand, you mean?
Yeah, you will have to put a little bit of sand on there every year, I would imagine. And to answer that gentleman's question about what type of assurance will there be that this is done correctly, if a permit is issued, the order of conditions will require an as-built. And the as-built will have to be a plan very similar to this, that a survey company would go out, they'd reshoot grades, they'd look at everything, and an as-built plan would be stamped and signed by a licensed land surveyor or professional engineer, certifying compliance with the permit. So there's a little bit of a belt and suspenders approach there.
I think the concern is just the quality of the installation work. Of the
Well,
pool
the repeated
installation. not-
installation, tear down,
Right,
install,
yes.
tear down, install.
And I think I made it clear at the last meeting that the way that this came in is not the way that any project should come in. A permit should have been filed before any work was done within the commission's jurisdiction.
Right. But we,
So I do understand the frustration from the neighbors.
okay. Is there any other comment from the public? None? Okay, this project requires a waiver because there's 200, how am I looking at, 275 square feet of impact within the no disturb zone and another 445 within the no build zone. So before we proceed on the order of conditions, we have to approve a waiver.
We have to close the public hearing first.
Good question.
Yeah.
Do we need to close the public hearing first?
If-
Before we
Close the-
vote on waivers, we have to close the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so can someone make a motion? Thank you.
Sure. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the notice of intent for 5 Cortlandt Road, DEP file number 14-1393.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay, back to the waiver request. I just started saying the square foot that they're requesting within the no build and the no disturb. I, for one, am not comfortable with granting a waiver. I think there should be some flexibility to get at least out of the no disturb zone. And the fact that this pool is going to be taken down and rebuilt on an annual basis, it's going to lead to disturbance within the no disturb zone. So I think, at least from my viewpoint, we have the duty to protect that no disturb zone. I would be open to consider if there was mitigation somewhere else to create some more wetlands to offset this amount within the zone. Like I said, I would consider that. But as it stands right now, I cannot support granting a waiver for that third or so of the pool that's in the no disturb zone. So that being said, I'll let the other commissioners state their viewpoints.
Does it affect your decision whether the pool is taken down every year or not?
A little less, no,
No.
not totally, no. I just don't have a good feel about, someone's come in here on a violation, and now we're gonna grant them a waiver to go into our no disturb zones. So doesn't seem to me to be the right thing to do. Now, I'm just one vote, but the other commissioners can vote as they see fit. So that being said, Mike, I'll let you ask any other questions or comments on the waiver.
Well, my concern is your concern that it's a no disturb, and every year you're disturbing it by tearing it down, and to me, that's a continuous disturbance. I'm more for moving for the pool to stay up. And if it had to be torn down because they need access to the easement, they'd have to go along with that. But, see, that, I'm more in favor that way.
Okay.
I don't know if there's more discussion with the rest of the board.
But then you would vote to approve the waiver, I would think.
Well, and that's, under those conditions, if I was also the moving party for my motion.
Right. But we have no
would be-
guarantee that that's gonna happen
Well,
either.
No.
Tough one.
Am I allowed to say anything while you're deliberating? I don't want to.
No, sorry, Greg.
No, because the hearing is closed.
Yeah.
Well, granting a waiver doesn't, is only step one.
Right, then we still have to approve the order of
Yeah, you have to
conditions.
approve.
But I'm more inclined with the order of conditions because we have someone that's saying they're gonna do it right, and they're professionals. This pool is gonna be taken up and down by the homeowners presumably,
Yeah, that's what.
and just all the disturbance that goes with that.
Yeah. So you know what? I'll make a motion that we.
Oh, hold on, Mike.
But we have a
haven't- we're
motion
not
at
there
hand.
yet.
We're not,
No, because I still have the other board members have their say.
I thought they were done.
We're voting on the waiver, Mike.
I know.
Did
No.
you make your vote or no? I just want to make sure I got
I'm
that.
about to make a motion on the waiver.
But we're not ready yet. So
There's
just-
no, we're looking for your yes or no, not a new motion. There was already a motion on the waiver.
Who made
I
the
don't-
motion?
There has been no motion. We
There's
made a
no
motion
motion.
for the
No
public
motion.
hearing.
I apologize. I thought Peter had said he
We
was a
ended the
no on the
public hearing.
waiver.
Now we're just,
I apologize.
We're
I just wanted to make
discussing,
sure we were following the
the merits of
correctly
the
So
waiver.
for
let
this.
me start with,
Got it. Sorry,
but
Peter.
Mike, these other two members still have to speak their
I'm
minds.
Yes.
So, Vanessa, what do you think?
Okay, lots to think about.
Want me to say something?
Yes, please,
Okay.
go ahead. I'm still thinking, organizing
I'm
myself.
looking at the amount of square footage that we're talking about here. And they're altering 6.2% altogether. So this is not a large alteration in terms of that. And so I look at it as maintaining the base, as he indicated, would be the key here to eliminating difficulties in the 35 and the 50. So I think the way I feel about it is if the base is strong enough, then I don't have a problem with this because we're not talking lots and lots of square footage here. It's a small amount of square footage, right up against the porch. So it's not really out in the backyard against some of the barriers here.
Okay?
Okay.
Well, the area is 445 square feet, if that's, say, call that.
720 total. Well, I said,
Yeah,
not-
720, but I'm just
No, it's-
talking about
it's
the
not.
0 to 50 part.
Yeah, I'm
and-
talking, my objection is just the no disturb zone,
Yeah.
and that's
yeah.
only 275 square feet.
Right.
But that's, to my way of thinking, that's just going up, that's just providing an upper limit. we're not compelled, because
Right,
their
right.
square
I
footage is
understand.
less
Yeah,
than that,
yeah.
to,
But that would be,
We have-
call that 15 by 15, That's the whole area of the base of the pool, more or less.
Mhm.
The no disturb,
No, if you look in the
in that
drawing, it's
sense. But
probably.
if you look at the drawing, it's less.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Am I allowed to?
Yep, go ahead.
No, I think the public
Oh,
hearing
that's
is-
right,
No,
too.
we're-
Okay,
no,
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 sorry.
Oh, we ain't off track.
no public
Okay, it's
Okay,
your
so-
turn.
All right, Vanessa, just, what do you think?
I don't know, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Obviously, it should have come in through the proper channels and it didn't, but if it had, would we be as worried about it as we are that it didn't come through the proper channels?
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, and having been on the site visit, I feel like there are, there's like the whole discussion about what is a permanent pool, what is a temporary pool. This type of pool is not a permanent pool. It's not one that
No.
would probably last more than 3 years if you left it up the whole time. It's, a pool that is meant to be put up and taken down by homeowners. It's not one that you would go to a pool store and buy and have a pool installer. It's like that Intex type of pool.
Wait, it is though. I had an above-ground pool like that for 20 years.
But
It
did
stayed
you have one
up.
with like steel panels on the
Steel
side? But I
panels,
don't think
yeah.
that's what they
Yeah,
have.
is
I
this
think
a
they have
blow-up pool or
It's a vinyl
something?
pool,
No.
right? It's a
Vinyl.
Georgia, it's like a vinyl-sided pool, yes?
I wish I'd been.
From
able
what
to
I
vote.
believe.
Yes, yeah, that's.
I
what
feel
it-
like what we saw when we were there, this is like a newer thing that's been around more lately, rather than what people had in the past. Like, it's not steel panels
Right.
that last a long time. It's like a vinyl pool that can spring a leak, the bottom can wear out. I don't really think it's a permanent pool. It's one that they probably will have to replace every couple of years, no matter what, because they just don't last. I think we're making, if we do if we do say it has to be taken down every year, I think we're making allowances for the, the easement and the access to by the town to the easement. I think if all the area, it does seem like, they're not gonna go out there and grade themselves, and we can certainly condition it to be very clear that they have to have, the grading has to be done by a professional. And if everything's loamed and seeded and you just have this little circle that's not loamed and seeded, I don't know. I'm not that worried about it, to be honest.
Okay. So now someone can make a motion that we grant a waiver, and then we'll vote on it.
Well, I'll make a motion, we grant a waiver from the no disturb zone, with the impact of 275 square feet, and the no build zone of 445 feet for a total alteration of 6.2%.
I'll
Motion.
second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Okay, so the motion does carry.
Were you, is Mike a yea
Well,
or a
Mike
nay?
said you.
Well, I'll make a motion, you don't have to pass my motion, but I'm gonna move that.
Wait.
No,
Sorry.
we voted on the waiver. We just approved
Yeah,
the waiver.
yeah.
You
I just
voted
wasn't
I
yes.
clear.
voted yes.
Okay, I
Yeah,
couldn't
Yeah,
from
yeah.
here.
Okay, so now what are you gonna say, Mike?
Well,
About,
I'll make a motion, it might not be the motion the board wants, but, I mean, my motion, I don't have confidence that they would be able to take this pool down year after year, put it back up without disturbing the area, or that they would be able to maintain, or that they'd even be able to maintain, the drainage as it currently is, or as it's supposed to be. So I would move that, that we allow the pool, but that it remain up every year, that they continue to report annually for the first 3 years on the condition of the grading and of the pool, because I just don't feel that, that the fencing be placed, that they, before they, as someone said, before they put one drop in the pool, that the fence be installed, that they, and be inspected. And again, the reason I feel that way, I just don't have any confidence that I would want them to be tearing down the pool and putting it up, tearing it down, putting it up. I think it creates more problems to the protected area. I think there's no guarantee, and I think it should be put up by a professional one time, and that be it. So that's my motion.
Okay, and just, actually, I'm going to suggest a
And,
couple
you know,
additions.
I
but-
would just add, it's a condition that we consider it, although it's staying up, we consider it a temporary and not a permanent structure.
Okay. Just a quick question for either Steve or Craig. Leaving the pool there, does that diminish the effectiveness of the, does it have any effect on the effectiveness of the easement?
I think as long as it's made clear and it's a continuing condition that it is temporary and that the town could remove it at any point in time, I think that needs to be a continuing condition. Because then I think it truly is temporary. Otherwise, it could get a little gray.
Okay, but that goes with the
Yeah,
easement
that's a
anyways.
good point.
And Steve,
What's
Okay.
that, Steve?
Mike, we also want to add a condition, so you can just add that
In just
on to the
discussion, the
motion.
question was related to if the pool does stay up, does it affect the flow of stormwater through the area? The pool itself, regardless or not, that's not going to affect the flow. It's just the ground surface is what, and the grading is what we're really concerned about. So, just want to answer your question specifically, if the pool stays up or comes down, I would always assume that the mound or the base foundation for the pool would stay up, and that grading that is set on the plant would always remain to allow stormwater to convey around the property.
Thank you. There was another condition I may have overlooked, which was, there's a pipe
Remove the pipe.
that I think the homeowner has there that we need to have removed.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that would be an additional condition,
There is
and
a
that the
plan.
commission, the staff would be informed every year of a maintenance statement for the first 3 years to ensure that the grade remains the same, that there's no further alteration to the pool.
Right, and I'm not sure how we fit this into conditions, Georgia, or if it's just an understanding. If that condition is not met, then the property goes back into a violation status and subject to whatever the penalties are therein. Okay. Okay, everyone get all that? So if someone can second?
Would someone like to repeat that?
Well, wasn't there, didn't the applicant mention something about, we're not going to drain the whole pool now, right? It's just going to be below the skimmer? And,
Right, should be.
Yeah, I think routine maintenance at the end of every season requires letting some water out of the pool, typically below.
below the skim area, yeah?
Yeah, and I think it's important that the protocol be followed that we have in our narrative, that the water be dechlorinated before anything is let out,
And we always have that condition, don't we, Georgia?
Yeah.
All right, just put it on the record.
Okay,
though.
Mike, so
That's
Anna's
my
asking.
motion.
You
Yeah,
made a
could you just summarize it in like 2
Yeah,
or 3 sentences?
summarizing the motion is that the pool remain up, that the applicant acknowledge in perpetuity, if needed, that it is a temporary structure subject to being taken down if need be by the town, that it be put up by a professional, not by the homeowner, that they report to staff, to report to our commission or to staff for the, every year for the next 3 years following the installation of the pool, that the existing pipe be removed.
Okay.
And I think,
That's it, that's
I
good.
think
Yeah,
that's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, got them all.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
No,
Okay, so the ayes have it.
yep.
Okay,
And
Thank you.
To clarify, I'm
Thank you.
voting against because we're going against what the town engineer said for taking it down. That's my only reason. But we can move
Where's
on.
that
I
He's
still
not
have-
that upset himself
No,
about it.
I know, but I just,
okay, good. No, it's good that people that are
Thank
willing
you.
to vote no.
Okay.
Okay,
Good, I
thank you.
vote no sometimes too, you know.
I know.
We do know, Mike.
Vanessa, do you mind pulling
Okay.
your mic in a little bit? Just a little bit.
Uh,
Thank you.
Next up is a notice of intent for 24 Princeton Street, DEP file number 14-1392. The applicant has requested to continue to our December 8th meeting, so if someone can make a motion, we'll continue the hearing until then.
I'll make a motion to continue the notice of intent for 24 Princeton Street, DEP file number 14-1392 to our next meeting on December 8th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, up, next is a request for determination of applicability for 496 Maple Street. The applicant is the town of Danvers, the Land Use and Community Services Department. Mr. Henry is here too.
Good evening, Commission. I'm Aaron Henry, the town's Director of Land Use and
Can you
Community.
speak up?
I can.
There we go.
Yep.
My name is Aaron Henry. I'm the town's Director of Land Use and Community Services, and I'm here, I think our last meeting I was helping Georgia staff the Commission, and tonight I'm here on the other side of the podium seeking permission to construct what we call Phase 3 of the Danvers Middleton Rail Trail. I shouldn't say that's a formal name, but that's what our working title. Specifically, we're here as part of hoping for a negative determination from the commission for the work that we will need to do to install the stone dust and gravel base on that segment of rail trail. So an overview briefly of the new rail trail. Again, we don't quite have a good working name for it yet. It's being constructed in a number of phases. I'm pleased to report that every phase is now under design. Two parts of this project are now under construction. We've received a grant for Phase 3, so we're here tonight to talk about Phase 3, which is basically Kirkbride Drive out to the Middleton Town Line. Earlier this year, we received a grant from the Mass Trails organization, which is part of DCR. We also received an earmark from the state to help supplement that grant because it wasn't quite enough to make it work. And we're here before you now. We've awarded a bid to a contractor, and we just kind of want to walk you through what it is we think we need from the commission. So there's a little bit of history there. I won't bore you with all of it, but Beaver Brook, we were here in the spring. The bridge over Beaver Brook is under construction right now, and all the heavy construction with that will be complete before the end of the calendar year. That's probably one of our largest engineering obstacles on the way to Middleton, so thank you for your previous approvals related to that. But we're here tonight to talk about Phase 3. Maybe
A
the next.
lag there, so.
What's up?
There's a little bit of
There's
a
a
lag,
little
so
lag,
just
yes,
know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So just again, I think hopefully everyone is familiar with the rail trail, the current rail trail, and what the surfacing looks like. But in case you haven't been out there to check it out, basically it's a gravel base with a stone dust dressing on top of that, and it just kind of fades into the trail side and doesn't require a ton of maintenance. And if we can jump to the next one, here's an actual image from Phase 3 of what we're hoping to do. Basically, right now, this is a power line easement maintained by Danvers Electric. It's roughly 10 feet wide. There's trucks up and down it right now. If you look carefully, it's a little hard to see, but you might see some rutting from the tires from the regular maintenance. They're out there regularly, I think twice a season, to trim the vegetation back to maintain clear access. And really what we're looking to do is install the base and the stone dust on top of that. That's just like the existing rail trail inside of those existing ruts. It's about 10 feet wide. It's a little variable in spots. We will be installing erosion control in the sensitive areas along that stretch, but really not a ton of land disturbance associated with the project, hence our request for a negative determination. Go to the next slide. There's the lag.
Yep, it's there.
Here's just kind of an overview of the map of Phase 3. And if I'm going to try to approach just so the folks at home can see where we're talking about. And there's a slight edit here. Phase 3 technically does come all the way up to the Kirkbride intersection. What we're looking to do is stop here at the power substation. If you're familiar with the area, there's a power substation. We're going to stop there because there's potentially some engineering issues of how to navigate this grade change. And it ultimately may end up going in a different direction. So we're really just starting from that crossing, I'll say northward or westward to the Middleton town line. And then this plan does show a few of the sensitive areas that we're going through, but again, right now, we're sticking to the track that the utilities currently use. And there's next couple slides are just kind of a zoomed-in version of this aerial. And fortunately, Mr. King is here to provide any technical information that you may have, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What is the timing on doing this work and just completing these different phases?
We have awarded the contract to, and I'm blanking on the name, Design Works. I'm trying to, Desmond Landscaping. We did have a contract to use the same firm that was doing the work in Middleton. That would, in a lot of ways, would have been ideal to just have them continue through. They were unable to make the quote that they gave us, so we had to go back out for another bid. But to your point, we're doing the work this fall.
So next spring, this might be,
You'll be able to ride your
Bikeable.
bike on it.
Correct. Yep,
that's good news.
we're ready to go.
Okay, and just a quick question. What kind of disturbance are you actually going to do to prepare the surface?
I'll look to Stephen to tell me, to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all we do is scrape back the first couple inches, basically just get rid of the sod layer, and then gravel and stone dust on top of that.
And what you scrape off, do you take away?
Essentially, the deepest cut will probably be about 12 inches that we'll have to scrape away to get down to a good sub-base, and then we'll rebuild it back up with an 1.5 inch processed stone, and then the stone dust pack on top of that, so 6 inches and 6 inches on top. Everything we excavate, we plan to keep on site and reuse. It's all great loam that's already there existing, so we can respread it, and it will naturally just reseed itself.
Okay, thanks. All right, that's it for me. Mike, do you have questions?
Yeah. Well, first, as one of the first proponents of the rail trail, I was back when there was a lot of opposition. And
There's a lot of that. I hear a lot of people say they were the first. So I'll go with it. I'll go with it.
I was chairman of the commission back then that looked into that, and we had experts come in, and that was one of the areas we looked at. So I'm thrilled to see the expansion. I'm curious, where would, if you were riding your bicycle up Maple Street or wherever, where would you pick up that trail?
Again, so this is unofficial. What I would how I would access it would be, I would stay on Maple Street until you get to the post office
Yeah.
and drop in at the post office. We are under design right now. How that ultimately, the final condition of how that will be one continuous path from downtown to downtown Middleton is still under design. That section in the middle there is a little tough, and we're working with Mass Highway on that section. But for right now, you'll drop in at the power station just after the post office.
And then you could continue through Middleton beyond that, and then where? does it
Middleton has constructed, I was last out there about a year ago. I mean, almost all of it's constructed. Mass Highway's doing the bridge just after Farmer Brown's in 2025, I think. I don't know if you remember. I think it's 26.
Bridge there?
And that's going to be off. If you look now, you'll notice there's like an old stone abutment
stone.
from the old railroad bridge. They're going to install a pedestrian bridge over that, and then 62, there will be no pedestrian accommodation. You will have to use that bridge to cross the Ipswich River at that location. But they've built up to that point, and they've built after that point, and that gets all the way to Middleton Center, a little bit past, and they are continuing to do their design work on how to keep going.
That's all, just thrilled to see the expansion. One other thing. What groups currently, I use the trail a lot, I know Peter does, I'm sure most of the people here do. what are the groups, I know the Scouts were involved at some point because we had approved different projects they wanted to do. So as that stone dust wears out, and it does, who's responsible for keeping that up?
That's a great question. Depending on the level of maintenance or what's going on, there are times because both the existing rail trail and this new rail trail, I think the new rail trail is 100% utility right of way. Depending on what the nature of the maintenance is, it might be the utility that's responsible for repair, like last year when we had the culvert blowout near the meadows here in town. That was something that they needed to address. But regular maintenance has been something that we've had to talk about internally, and we have moved the day-to-day operation or day-to-day maintenance of the rail trail to the Natural Resources Division of the Recreation Department. So these are the same crew that does Endicott Park and Whipple Hill. Again, there's definitely needs to be a partnership between Natural Resources staff, DPW, and Danvers Electric, depending on how severe the maintenance is.
And there's volunteer groups too that
Yep.
help out,
The
right?
Rail Trail Advisory Committee is really, they deserve far more credit than they get for the amount of work that they do for us out on the trail for regular maintenance. And again, I think as we go forward, especially as we're basically doubling the miles of rail trail we have in town, I don't think it's sustainable for the organization to continue to rely on them to the extent that we have. So that's why we're trying to realign a little bit of our internal resources
Right.
to have a little bit better support for the volunteers that have been really
And
doing a lot.
will we continue to get grants or assistance?
Oh, yes.
We will?
Yep, we'll continue to look at mass trails, and there's a number of other options, a few private foundations that we've been working with to try to get more resources.
Yeah, originally, it was Iron Horse, I think, came in and ripped up all those tracks that really got the ball rolling
Yep.
for the rail trail. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Aaron.
Chelsea?
And
No,
Steve.
Peter asked the question I wanted to ask. I have nothing.
Okay, Vanessa?
I just was wondering if you could speak to erosion control, what the procedure is for erosion control, if there's any.
Yeah, I think you want to.
Yeah, sure. So we are going to be installing erosion controls, roughly about 2,600 linear feet of wattles we're going to have to install, which we're installing currently today, and through the rest of next week we'll have up. And that will basically hug the line on both sides of the trail for certain sections where there's you see some of the potential wetlands that are nearby, and then also where there's steep embankments as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I have.
Ann?
No. Actually, after you were here the last time, I walked underneath the wires and checking out what it was going to look like. So I approve.
Good.
I tested the land when it was still, grass.
Okay, and I think this question was asked earlier, but I just want to double check. This work you're hoping to do this fall? So,
That's correct.
so this is within weeks then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there any questions or comments from the public? No? Okay, everyone thinks it's a good idea. So if someone can make a motion, I think we should grant a negative determination of applicability.
I'll make a motion that we issue a negative determination of applicability for 496 Maple Street, DCC file number 2022-04.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's a caterpillar on the floor.
Hey, good.
Rescue.
Okay, good.
What's that?
Gonna rescue a caterpillar.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
It's Conservation Commission. I mean, it's only appropriate.
Can we move on?
Okay, next up is a request for certificate of compliance for 15 Lobeo Drive, which is Smith School. The applicant is the town of Danvers, Department of Public Works. Is there someone? Okay. I knew we were looking at you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Hood. I am with W.T. Rich, representing the town. We are the construction manager for this new Smith School. And today in your package, we are looking for a certificate of compliance. And within that package, you're going to see a a narrative from Niche Engineering, as well as Warner Lawson, landscape architect and civil engineer, noting compliance. And we have submitted this as-built for the work that we did within the 100-foot buffer, as well as we've submitted utility site as-built drawings and the large soccer field grading plan for the record.
Okay. And we were all out as a commission, or probably not all of us, but 3 or 4 of us at least,
Yeah.
sometime in October, and pretty impressive project. Everything seemed to me to be done the way that they had told us it was going to be several years back when we were out there. Now, Georgia, in your comments, there were like 5 different discrepancies from the original plan to what actually was out there, but
And those were,
the wetlands.
yeah, those all appeared to be stormwater relative, very utility details that really were no issue to the wetlands.
Okay, thanks. Okay, that's all I have for questions. Mike, you have any?
No, just I was impressed with the teaching feature that you showed us there, and
Alls I did was build it, but Niche Engineering and Warner Lawson put that together. They did a great job.
Yeah.
yeah,
Great
Yeah.
job.
yeah, that's all.
My most impressive thing was the fact that the sewer line worked by gravity.
Yeah, that too.
I never would
For
have
the
thought
most
that,
part?
Yes.
that
For the most
Summer
part,
Street,
right, Stephen?
Oh, wow.
No, the whole part. It works.
Yeah.
good. Chelsea, any questions?
No, I'm just happy to see this project went so smoothly, relatively, that it came together so well.
The town did a good job. Vanessa, any questions?
I have just one. So I wasn't able to make it to the site visit that took place, but I've been spending a lot of time at the soccer fields this fall. So I just had a question. I noticed this when I was there this past Sunday. So if we're looking in like the top left corner of this drawing, so if the soccer fields are indicated on the back,
Smaller, the youth soccer field or the larger one?
the ones that are like on the back side of the building, like if the playground's in the front, the fields are on the back.
Yeah, you can see it on the left-hand side of the drawing.
The package?
Yes.
I have the grading plan included as the last document. If you
Of
took
the-
the whole package.
I took of this one.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This is the large soccer field.
Okay, so it's not really so much about the soccer field, it's about when I'm going around the building,
Yep.
there is one area on the right that is clear cut.
Yeah.
And right now, there's some stumps out there, so I didn't know if that was planned
That's
to
the
be.
outdoor classroom.
Okay, see, I missed this at the
Yeah,
site visit,
if-
but I just happened to notice it's like a lot of vegetation and then it's like all cut. But I wasn't sure if that's cut
That,
in a
the
wetland
commission
area
learned
or-
of that too on the
The,
visit.
the
Also
school, the school wants to use that as a learning, as an outdoor classroom.
Okay.
The stumps are for that area. And
Okay.
that is why there's mulch in the back there rather than seed.
We saw
Okay.
that.
Yeah, they were all on pallets when we were there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, because it did look like that, an outdoor classroom, you know,
Yeah.
the stumps were all in a circle. It looks like a place for people to sit and talk or whatever, but I just wasn't clear, it wasn't really clear to me if that area that was cut is in a buffer zone or was already approved to be cut. Georgia, do you know?
So I believe that area has always been maintained, that was one of the laydown construction areas during construction of
Okay.
the school. And it also, I have it on the plan top left here. So there is large infrastructure that's outflowing, there is drainage there, so keeping it clear for access to that outfall is why it's always been maintained clear.
Okay,
But I will note the outdoor classroom was not something that was under the plan. It wasn't shown on the plan, but
Yep.
on the visit, the commission had noted it seemed minimal in terms of impact associated with that.
okay.
I think I heard you ask if it was under our jurisdiction, and it is within our jurisdiction, and that we had voted as part of the project for that.
The kids utilize that, all the wetlands. The gym teacher is very good about bringing them outside and walking them through and talking about life within the ecosystem there. So I think he does a great job, and they'll enjoy it out there.
Okay. Thank you.
What's that?
Yep.
Ann, any questions?
No. It was a
Okay,
great tour.
If someone can make a motion, we can grant the certificate of compliance.
I'll make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 15 Lambeo Drive, DEP file number 14-1323.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great job over there.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, number 5 is a notice of intent for 8 and 8R Greenleaf Drive, 7 and 9 College Pond Road, 15 Lobeo Drive, 40 Summer Street. DEP file number 14-1394. The applicant is the Town of Danvers Engineering Division. Steve is going to walk us through this.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Yes, Stephen King, Town Engineer. One from the Public Works Department who's spearheading the Greenleaf project. I also have with me tonight our consultants who have been helping with the project, Danielle Gallant and David Burnett from CDM Smith as well, who will be getting more into the technical components of this project. I basically just want to start off with a brief introduction of what I call a project with a lot of moving parts. So if you're not familiar with the Greenleaf Drive ejector station, and I'm going to call it an ejector station for a specific reason, because it's a 1970 style ejector air compressed pot system. So it uses compressed air with pots within an internal vessel, which then pushes down on the wastewater and sends it up a force main out to Summer Street. And back in the 1990s, 1998 specifically, CDM Smith helped the Town of Danvers with a facility plan to help eliminate some of our pump stations that we know could go by gravity because of recent developments, and also SESD interceptors that were installed in the 70s and 80s. Based off that existing plan, they had named about 8 pumping stations that could have been eliminated. From 1998 to 2012, we were able to get rid of 7 of those 8 pumping stations and go by gravity by various methods of gravity feeds and going through easements. And we eliminated those structures from our wastewater collection system. The last one, Greenleaf Drive, was again brought up in our 2012 update. Our facility plan is another one that we thought it would be a good proponent to be eliminated. We did do a study. Our CDM Smith did this study in 2012, looked at various alternatives in order for us to eliminate this station, because at that point it had started to fail and see its wear and tear. We had already made some improvements in the 90s, but we're seeing about every 20, 25 years, almost 30 years, we're having to put more capital, invest more capital into the ejector station. So based on the 2012 study, there were several alternatives that came up. If you can see, basically, I'll take this as well. We have Greenleaf Drive, which is right here. This is where the existing ejector station is. Our first alternative, we like to go by a gravity feed going up Greenleaf, down Summer Street, and then back down College Pond, where we tie into an existing sewer on College Pond. College Pond was able to get developed because SESD, the Southwest Sewage District, ran a new interceptor main through this area, which it ties into. So there's an existing sewer that comes down College Pond and then takes an easement between 2 houses and runs into the interceptor along College Pond and the rail trail. So our first alternative was running about 2,000 linear feet of 10-inch gravity PVC sewer main. Our second option was running 800 linear feet between a cross-country easement that would be needed between Summer Street addresses, Greenleaf addresses, and College Pond addresses as well. The third alternative that we looked at was obviously replacing the pump station, ejector station, with a new submersible wet well with higher rated pumps and a valve vault, which also, all 3 options are heavy construction, require a lot of time, a lot of investment, and a lot of capital. And obviously the last option, which we don't want to do, is obviously do nothing. So we have to do something. It's at a point right now where we have to make some type of critical repairs, otherwise it's going to fail and then cause us to have to bring in multiple pumping trucks to try and continue the sewer for the neighborhood of Greenleaf Drive. So based on those alternatives, 1,900 feet, just to give you a rough estimate, we're expecting the gravity sewer main is going to last us 100 years. either direction we go. Between the two options of the gravity sewer mains on Summer Street, that obviously be a huge, heavy construction project which require detours, bypass pumping, road repavement, obviously tying up a lot of the Greenleaf area as well as the College Pond area. Second option, less linear footage, obviously less of a cost, still the same guarantee for about 100 years worth of lifetime expectancy of the materials. Running an 800-foot linear 10-inch PVC sewer, gravity between Greenleaf Drive and the College Pond. Obviously going this route, it triggered us because we're in the wetlands area to come in front of you tonight to propose this alternative, which we think is the best alternative for us. And then lastly, obviously the pump station replacement. Again, that's another one. We still have to be in front of the Conservation Commission. We'll still be working in the wetlands. We'd still be coming back here every 20, 30 years asking, requiring some approval from your commission in order to perform updates and maintain that existing injector station. I'm going to turn it over to Dave Burnett to talk about a little bit more of the logistics of the gravity sewer main, and then he'll turn it over to Danielle for the wetlands technical piece of it.
Thank you, Steve. So as Steve said, my name is Dave Burnett. I work for CDM Smith. We're a consulting engineering firm. We were contracted by the town for this project. I'm also a professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts. So I'm the project manager and will be the engineer of record when everything's finalized. Also a St. John's Prep grad, so right up the street, familiar with the area. So as Steve already covered a lot of the major aspects of the engineering plan, but the gist of it is this pump station is going to fail. So we need to do something within the next few years. Otherwise, you will be sending untreated wastewater into the wetland that we're trying to protect. As Steve said, the 10-inch PVC sewer run at minimum slope will be able to reach to College Pond Road completely up by gravity, which is the preferred option. Pump stations tend to have a useful life of 20 to 30 years or so and require regular maintenance. This sewer should be good to go for 100 years. It'll be made of plastic. And will have no leaking whatsoever. If a pump station fails, it has nowhere to put the wastewater, so it's going to discharge. Because there's no mechanical parts here, the sewer itself has no reason to fail, especially since there's no surface loading on this pipe. So how are we going to do this? We are going to be running through a 20-foot permanent easement through a few different pieces of property cross-country, so through the woods. And we will be requiring an additional 10 feet on either side of that easement as temporary for construction purposes.
Excuse me, that easement is in place already?
No, it is not.
Okay.
This would be, all these plans are conditional upon the acquisition of the easements.
Are you going through people's private property with that?
Do you want to talk to that, Steve?
Yeah, so we are, or have started conversations with the property owners who would be affected or the abutters of this proposed easement. It obviously would have to go through an eminent domain process to make sure it's legally acquired for the town for the easement. But basically it'd be all underground sewer. Nothing would be exposed once the project is complete. But again, we want to make sure that the commission here is comfortable with what we're planning to do as far as where we located the easement before we go ahead and try and finalize where the easement location is going to be.
This sounds like it'll be some time off. It's not going to happen right away if you have to do any kind of taking or easements or deal with.
So if you kind of look at my timeline, we've kind of been doing this since, before I was here. Rick Rogers had started this process a while ago. So I've just kind of restarted it myself. We do have a process in place. Once we have an easement or determination from the commission, we can go forward and finalize what we have as a plan of where we want to lay our sewer, our wastewater, and then be able to then go take the next step and start acquiring the easements.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right, so an important thing to note here is that the sewer itself will not be going through any wetlands at all. However, due to the uneven surface that's in this area, we are going to have to be placing some fill and moving some of the hill slopes to maintain a minimum cover on top of our sewer pipe so that it is not damaged by the environment. And that earthwork is what would be impacting the wetlands. Another important aspect is that the finished project here will shouldn't be very noticeable at all. Surface vegetation will retake the area slowly over time. We can't have any major trees on top of the sewer pipe because the roots can cause problems. But it'll be a grassy area, much like all the other cross-country easements throughout the town. So I'm going to hand it off to my colleague Danielle, who can talk more about the wetland mitigation techniques that we're going to use.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Gallant. I'm a professional
Can you
wetland.
just pull the microphone down?
Oh, I'm so short and they're so tall. Hi. Hello. My name is Danielle Gallant. I'm a professional wetland scientist with CDM Smith. I helped prepare the application for this project. As my colleagues have mentioned previously, the project will or does propose impacts to both wetland as well as bordering land subject to flooding or floodplain. So what we're looking at, as Dave mentioned, is impacts due to placement of fill over the sewer pipe to protect it. And the totals of those impacts, as Georgia sent me this very nice little sheet that she sent to you guys. As we noted in the application, the total square footage of impacts for the wetland is 573 square feet. And for the bordering land subject to flooding, it is 1,328 square feet. So in order to replicate those wetlands that are being impacted, we actually are proposing that at the Smith School, as we've noted in the plans. Georgia, if you want to show that for me, down.
There's going to be a little bit of a lag. Do you know what page that's on? It wasn't.
It's one of the last. You'll see it when they're right there. Oh, this is existing. Please go to the next. Here we go. So we are proposing 900 square feet of wetland replication at the Smith School, directly abutting the existing wetlands on site. So we had a professional wetland scientist delineate the wetlands at that location as well. And so we have a good idea of what's existing out there, and we are proposing 900 square feet directly adjacent to that, similar community type, same elevation, wetland replication area. For the bordering land subject to flooding, the floodplain, we had some site constraint issues. It's a very tight area. We wanted to propose the compensatory flood storage on a town-owned parcel. So we have proposed this, the small area, yeah, right there. That area right there is 3,237 square feet. And what we are proposing to do is to take 1 foot of elevation out from that area to create a small sort of tub of floodplain to make up for the floodplain that we are filling elsewhere in the project, as noted on the plans. So, any questions on anything so far?
Just to reaffirm what we heard at the Smith School, that's the area where the outflow was from the street drainage. Is this wetlands mitigation is going to be in that area, correct?
Correct, and it's, Member Curran had brought up in the last hearing an area that had been cleared that led to an outfall area. That is this exact area they are talking about. That outfall area has wetlands behind it, and that's where they would look to improve.
And that's the same watershed that's this project is in?
Yes.
It is, I believe, is still the Beaver Brook, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
On this sheet here, can you just orient us, like, what are these streets here?
Sure.
Like, I'm a little confused about, like, the layout.
Actually,
so
I
this-
think there was a picture that showed the buildings. It's probably a better example to explain where.
The area.
where it
And I
comes
will
from.
note, there's a pointer in the podium. They should be in there. It's a
Could you
collapsible
maybe
metal
send it?
pointer that may help the audience. And the microphone comes off if you want to bring
I
it.
don't know if I'm that
Across the
brave,
bottom.
but I'll try it
That's
from
the
here.
nursing home.
So this is
That's
Greenleaf
Greenleaf.
here.
Okay.
And the other, so
This
they
is
could go into the
Greenleaf, and then
woods
College
Guys,
Pond
they
is
can't-
on the other
on
side
the
over
other
there.
side.
So
Could you
north
speak
is
up
like to the
again?
right.
I'm sorry, could you speak up? I didn't
Sure.
catch that.
I'll take the microphone out.
Yes.
Be like Vanna. Okay. So this is College Pond here, and this here is Greenleaf Drive.
Okay.
And so the pipe would go from Greenleaf across Pivot pivot College Pond.
And that's, just to reinforce, that's the nursing home on Summer Street, in the middle of the bottom of it. And what about up directly above that? What is that building?
You talking about this one?
Yes.
That's a private residence of
Oh, it
40
is,
Summer
okay.
Street.
That's off of Summer Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's that residence has a long driveway that kind of swoops along the back here. We tried to put our sewer alignment along that driveway so that we would minimize impacts to local vegetation.
And there used to be a pool back there, is that still there?
Yes, there is a community pool up
Okay,
in
so
this
it's a-
area.
yeah.
The driveway for that is right here. Steve can talk more about the scheduling, but the intention would be that if this is completed during summer months when the pool is in use, we would maintain access to that pool during construction.
Okay.
Because the driveway is right there and the existing pump station is kind of right here, and our new sewer is going to go right along that.
Okay. Did that answer your question? Vanessa, you get your
Yeah,
bearings?
so the north was to the right. That's what was throwing me off, I think.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep, that's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, good. All right, so why don't we just go the regular route? So Mike, any other questions?
You mentioned something about sludge. Are you talking about finding an area to place the sludge so it drains? Did I hear you say that? No?
Me? Her?
Yeah.
Me? So if the pump station were to fail, it usually takes a little while for people to notice that it failed, and the wastewater keeps coming. Residents don't know it's failed, so they keep using their shower and their washing machine and stuff. But that water has nowhere to go. So then you are left with what's called an SSO, or a sanitary sewer overflow, because the water doesn't have anywhere to go. And based on the drainage of this site, that water would continue down this slope here into the wetland that we would be
I see.
affecting. So if it fails, it is a very high consequence. And that's part of the reason why we're moving toward, or why we think that a gravity sewer is the best idea, because the chance of failure is so much less than
Failure
mechanical.
imminent with this system, with what you have now? You say Rick Rogers started that, so that had to be some time ago?
Yeah, so originally we started evaluating this in the late 1990s. And then, obviously, there were other pump stations that took more precedence. If you remember the one over at Conant Street, where we had the Conant Street Interceptor, that big project.
Yeah.
The one down on Liberty Street, down near Pope's Landing, we moved that pump station as well. All those critical areas to the Porter and Danvers River. This one is, we've been able to kind of piece it together and keep it going. But at this point, they don't make these type of stations anymore. They're bringing the parts are
I wonder why
obsolete.
they just didn't use gravity in the first place. Was it a problem accessing the properties, or?
I can't tell you what they
knows?
did in the 1970s, but
Yeah,
that's.
I know.
That's what,
Isn't it the SSC?
Mike and I, we were busy then.
well, then,
Yeah.
none of that was built yet either.
That's right.
Yeah, that's more.
Right. So the reason why they couldn't do gravity to begin with is because College Pond Drive didn't exist.
Oh.
So there was no sewer to connect to further downstream. And it's not possible to run via gravity from where the pump station is now to the main on Summer Street. You don't have the elevation.
Yeah. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
That's a good question.
Okay, Chelsea?
Yeah, so if this project were to get approved, how long would construction take? Like, what is the timeline there?
So we're estimating it's probably a consistent work schedule of probably 3 months to complete this project.
Okay. All right.
Of the heavy part of construction, we would probably have it extend into next year with doing the restoration work after that, depending on when the project ended.
I see. And do you guys like have an ideal season that you'd want to start the work in, or is it just like whenever? Like as soon as possible?
Obviously, speaking with the residents and the people who run the pool operation, we'd like to try and do this in the fall after the pool season closes, so we're not interrupting their summertime use,
Yeah.
which would be beneficial for both parties.
Conveniently, that time when the pool's not in use is also the best time to plant replicated wetlands.
Right, right.
So they line up nicely there.
That's all I have for now.
Okay, Vanessa, any other questions?
I have a couple. So what are we looking at in terms of tree removal for this?
Yes, so So this project proposes the removal, one of the plans that we have in our packages has, and I just want to pull it up, wait for the lag. Yeah, and it's 30, this sheet right here, yes. So those X's are the trees that will need to be removed, the larger trees that will need to be removed in order to place this pipe. It's a count of 31 trees. And just to reiterate, the easement will be allowed to revegetate naturally to a DBH of 4 inches. So it's not going to be cleared completely. There will be trees and small woody vegetation allowed to grow on the pipe. It is just that we cannot allow large caliper trees to vegetate over a sewer pipe. It has the potential to impact the sewer pipe.
And is there a sheet that shows like the buffer zones on any of these plans, Georgia? Is there one
Yes.
that has the?
There is.
Is it in the plan set or in your?
Yeah, it's in the plan set. Yeah, I don't know if the buffer zones are on the extra figures that we made for this hearing.
Okay,
I believe it's sheet 1.
okay. I can see with this one.
While we're waiting for that to load, I have another question, actually. Is this going to be demarcated in any way on the surface so people are aware that there's like a pipe right under the forested area?
Permanently?
Anything, a flag,
During-
something?
So during construction, it will be, and we will have it staked for the site visit that we intend to have for this project. I don't,
We typically, sometimes if it's in a really heavily vegetated area, we'll put small posts just to find the access manholes,
Okay.
which there'll be 4 here, but other than that, we'd typically leave them buried or flush with the ground, depending if it's in pavement or grass.
Okay.
I also put a third opinion in here. Above the pipe, because it's PVC, it wouldn't come up on a metal detector, so we'll be installing a tracer tape 12 inches above the sewer pipe, so that way, when somebody's out there metal detecting, as DigSafe would do, they'll pick up the pipe, and then when someone excavates, they'll know when they're getting close to it as well.
Right, okay.
Danielle, do you want to
Vanessa?
point out the wetland lines for Vanessa Curran, or Member Curran?
sure. I'm just gonna use my finger. Okay, so you will see here, this is the 100-foot buffer zone. Then there is the 50. It's a little hard to see because there are so many lines on this page. The 35 and the 50 are here and here.
And then these are
So,
the wetland flags.
Yeah, and then these are the wetland flags here.
Okay, thank you.
So the whole
Yep.
thing is pretty much right in the wetlands. All set, Vanessa?
Yes.
Ann?
During construction and putting this together, are there going to be street closures for any of the neighborhoods?
I probably foresee maybe 1 or 2 days where we have to close the street when we make the initial tie-in on Greenleaf, and when we start on the College Pond end, coming into the easement.
Okay. I just.
But it's going to be temporary. We still be able to get a lane of traffic by.
Okay.
All set?
Yeah, a lot of movement there.
Okay, I'm sure there's a lot of people here for this particular item, so if anyone has something to say or ask questions, now's your time.
Okay, before we do that, could I just pose a question to staff, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead.
Could you explain why this is, would not require waivers?
Yeah, absolutely. So the commission, if you recall, recently, since 2018, has made substantial changes to the local wetlands bylaw. And part of that was adopting a 35 and 50-foot buffer zone. And with that, we had allowed certain exemptions for stormwater work. And then having experienced and working with that regulation for a bit, and also realizing other town projects and private projects, the commission revised the bylaws to allow for limited projects as defined in the Wetlands Protection Act. And the bylaw now says if you're a limited project, as determined by the state, then you do not need to adhere to the 35 and the 50-foot standard. So you don't need to request a waiver. But the commission, of course, still has the right to, uphold certain requirements that they, for
Do we have to make a
plantings.
finding that it's a limited project, or
The commission could,
area?
it is very clearly a limited project, and it's a, a check box. But if the commission wanted to make that statement for their approval, there's no harm in that,
Thank you.
if they give approval.
That's all.
Okay, so I think we're waiting for public comment, sir?
Seems like it would be a good thing.
Hi, good evening. John Bowner, 10 Greenleaf Drive. I'm also the president of the Oak Knoll Pool that I think somebody mentioned that's up in the back.
It's called the Oak Knoll Pool.
It's now the Oak Knoll Pool. It was once the
It was the
Greenleaf
Greenleaf,
Drive Pool.
huh?
It's been there for 60 years. It was put in
A few birthday
1962.
parties there. over the years.
Yeah.
I'll thank town staff, Georgia and Stephen King. They've been pretty proactive with keeping us in the loop about this project. It's been getting kicked around with us for a couple of years, and I guess I learned tonight it started back in 2012. However, I did send in a number of questions. I think they were forwarded on to you. But the first one I had, which came based on what I heard tonight, it sounds like 7 pumping stations were already replaced in the town. I'm just curious how many of those went through wetlands out of the 7. So maybe if I could find that out.
We had
Yes.
one.
So 7 were eliminated from the town, and most of them were traversed some type of either river or tidal boundary, where we originally had most of the town pump stations set up.
Okay. So they did need this?
Yes.
They did, okay. And my count was 33 trees. I think there's 2 that are actually outside the area, and I was talking with Stephen King about this. And again, I don't know how your decisions work. Again, I'm also a member of the zoning board. Are you able to, I guess a lot of what I'm going to ask you tonight are based on the logistics of the project. I do agree with the town that this is needed, and I hope we can find a way to move forward with it, and especially in the time frame we need it to happen as far as the pool, because it's not just the few abutters, it's actually 55 different Danvers families that use the pool, and access to it is this right-of-way, which is right next to this project, and it's there's a gate there, and there's fencing and all this. So my questions are around the logistics of that, but also about what can be done to, and I understand from one of the project engineers here that large trees can't be replanted, but what can be replanted? I understand the 20-foot work area, and then 10 feet on each side. So this is a 40-foot wide swath here. Very historic area, a lot of woods, once known as Oak Knoll. So I do believe it will, as someone who lives at 10 Greenleaf, there's never any shortage of leaves or trees there. However, it would take a fair amount of time, especially because these are adult trees, large, I believe maples and oaks, most of them, to repopulate. And I just wondered if that's something the commission can make as part of a condition, that certain amount of vegetation is actually replanted versus it just trying to grow back on its own. So
Yeah.
that would be one of my questions as well. And then the other thing I wasn't mentioned here is there's and I did bring this up with Stephen, there's a stormwater, current stormwater drain discharge from Greenleaf Drive that's also right at this junction here. So I'm just wondering if that's something that this board takes on as part of the project, or is that something that we just have to ask the town to kind of watch, and I don't know what state that's in. To me, it looks pretty poor, but I guess I would ask if maybe Stephen could address that. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Just in regards to the stormwater infrastructure that's currently placed in the center of the intersection through here. Is, I believe what you're concerned about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are looking into that and pulling together some data to see if that needs to be replaced during the project. Obviously, once the project is complete, we're also have Greenleaf Drive in our paving program as well. So before we put any final paving on the street, we want to make sure all the drainage infrastructure is repaired and replaced adequately so that we're not going back in there 2 to 3 years later to replace any of it. But it's an ongoing investigation, and that's something that myself and Mr. Burnett are going to look at as we continue the design process.
So it could be replaced as part of this project?
Initially, there's 2 reinforced concrete pipe outfalls there right now, which look in really pretty good condition. They don't look too deteriorated. It's some of the things tying in from the road that we're concerned about, so we have to look further into that.
Okay.
And again, I don't think I got an answer as far as what can be done to kind of repopulate this area with trees. I think I heard from one of the engineers, nothing bigger than 4 inches. Does that mean they'll actively plant things there after?
Can I just?
Sure.
Sure.
That's up to him.
I'm sure.
Sure, so, yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's obviously very important. We understand the sensitivities of the forest in this area. So the compensatory flood storage area, the area where we are taking out some of the existing elevation to create flood storage, we do have a planting plan for that area for when that work is done to repopulate that area. And also, obviously, we are replanting a large number of trees at the wetland replication area. There is no current plan to replant anything specific on top of the permanent easement, as it goes against the whole the whole purpose of leaving that easement clear of woody vegetation larger than 4 dBH so that it doesn't impact the sewer pipe. But we are open to conversation on, replanting.
So the issue is that the mature trees with the roots would destroy the,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
the drainage system.
Would,
and therefore
could
not a good
impact the
idea.
pipe.
It could block the pipe.
But you could plant other stuff that would be less
And that's what I think
imposing, or are you just talking about putting grass there or something?
I'm gonna, Steve, I'd like you to chime in on that.
Yeah, just kind of clarify a few things. Obviously, this is what we believe needs to be taken down in order to facilitate the project. In my experience in doing these projects in the past, we typically don't like to take too many things outside of the permanent easement, and we try and make things work within, the permanent easement during the construction. We have 2 10-foot, like as he said before, there's 2 10-foot on each side. Sometimes contractor likes to just pick one side and leave the other side alone because it's more of a cost for him to take down more trees than what's necessary. There's also an exercise that we would do during the project as well as, go out and walk the site with a contractor and really figure out what trees can stay, what trees really need to go. But ultimately, anything in the 20-foot permanent that's proposed, we would like to remove those. In the temporary, that's always up for discussion as far as what can stay, what can, and what has to go.
So can larger trees grow in the temporary easement? So it's not, in the end, when the project is done, it's not going to be a 40-foot wide easement. It will be 20, right?
Correct.
And the 10 feet on either side, can a full-size tree grow in that 10-foot area?
Yeah, we have easements that they can grow in the 10-foot. That's plenty of space. We would obviously just monitor it, and we do, constant annual camera inspection. So if we saw any determination that we think that a tree is at risk of putting our pipe or offset or damaging our pipe, we would then cut it down. But then again, that's another discussion we'd have with conservation before we went down that road.
Okay.
And I just have one other thing. I don't want to take everyone's time here tonight. And again, I think the town staff's been very good about keeping us involved, and I'm sure they'll continue, I hope, to work with not only the abutters, but the pool itself. But one thing I think I'm just curious about, and I don't think this comes in front of your commission as well, but is the removal of the existing pump station and the, currently right now, there's a large evergreen, it's well over 6 feet high to cover this pump station. I'm assuming that pump station will be taken out, and I guess I'm just trying to understand the process of how it cuts over to the new pipe and what happens to the old pump station. There's also a large electrical box on the street, so it's more on the logistics side of things, but I just wonder if somebody could speak to that.
Well, the gentleman behind you would.
I can speak to that. So the existing pump station would be removed, and the shrubbery would be taken down as part of that. The electrical pedestal would also be taken down, so there's much less noticeable infrastructure than there is there now. If that answers your question.
And again, I think this is a good thing. Long-term, definitely don't want to see the pump station fail, as none of my neighbors do, but, you know, obviously it borders, for those who aren't familiar with Greenleaf Drive, it borders the College Pond Conservation Area, which is town-owned land. It's 21 acres. You know, Oak Knoll Pool is landlocked within it. It has its own acre and a half with this right-of-way. So there's a lot going on here, and again, I think my initial feeling is by Stephen King that the town will do the right thing and stay on top of this and listen to our concerns with the logistics along the way. But I would urge you to go forward with this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Hi, my name's Maureen Larrabee. My husband Jim and I live at 7 College Pond Drive, and I will agree with the former speaker that Stephen King and the town have been nothing but forthcoming and clear in their explanations. However, we are very much opposed to this project in any way, shape, or form. We've lived in Danvers our whole lives, both of us. This is the third home that we've owned, and when we purchased the lot back in 1992 or so, we were fully aware that there were restrictions on the property as far as how far back we could go, the frontage, how far back the house could be, how far back the deck could be. We lived within those restrictions, and we're just opposed to this sewer project. It's going to affect about 3,500 square feet of our property. It's going to come directly down the side. It will take a number of trees off the rim of the wetland, trees which we have been told we were not allowed to touch because we were below the rim of the wetland. We didn't touch them. One is down only because it fell through the roof of our home. We don't see the need for this. This, I believe, is a vernal pool, and I think that there are other options for rerouting this. Are they the most cost-effective for the town? Probably not, but again, we're just here to raise our objections, and we hope that, you know, the Conservation Commission looks at this in terms of both the impact upon the wetlands. It's going to change the look and feel of our backyard, our property. We're going to lose 3 very mature spruce trees down the side of our yard. It's going to rip up our irrigation system, and it's going to impact, you know, our quality of life in our home for minimally 3 months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Where,
I think, sorry, Bill, but the gentleman behind you had his hand up first. So go ahead then.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Bill, fellow town meeting member. Bill Bates, town meeting member, Precinct 4, and resident of 14 Labeo Drive. I've been down to the site with the Larrabees and with Steve King, and I believe that the project is certainly necessary. I just would ask your expertise to make sure that the amount of effect on 7 College Pound Road is not out of whack with everywhere else, and that is the Larrabee's house, because it's a beautiful backyard, and it is an area they've respected for a long time, made sure nothing was done there, and now it's going to lose a lot of its character. So please take that into consideration and guide them through this process.
yeah, we're going to do a site visit.
Well, this all, just to, I guess, my clarification on this whole particular property, an easement has to be defined to go through there, is that right?
That's correct.
So that whole process still has to play out?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And as I understand from the staff notes, that we can require alternative routes to the extent that it's more beneficial.
Yes, if
Right.
if that's proven and discovered, yes.
Yeah, you'd be going around the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we're gonna do a site visit, right?
yeah, we'll vote on that, but it's,
No.
I just want to get through. Does someone else want to speak? Go ahead, Mr. Bradstreet. I really wish you would sit on that side of the room.
Yeah, he sits in the back.
Build suspense.
Yeah, suspense.
Again, Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Mine's a minor question. When you talk about replanting trees, trees tend to grow randomly. How do you accomplish the randability of planting trees? Is it going to look like a straight tree line? How do you decide, or how do they decide? A tree goes here, a tree goes here, 2 trees go here. How is that arrived at? For me, it's curiosity when you talk about taking all these trees down. How do you replace the trees that are going to be replaced?
I think you wanna ask the woman behind
Well,
you.
I'm going through the chairman for
Right, and
him
I'm
to
going to ask the
ask.
young lady behind you to answer the question.
No, it goes through him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Georgia, can you do me a favor and pull up the planting plan for the floodplain, the compensatory flood storage, and then I'll also show the replicated wetland, just to give an idea. We have a registered landscape architect that goes through our plans, our planting plans for us, and we work with them to appropriately plant vegetation in areas where we are designing replicated wetlands and also, in this case, compensatory flood storage. So you can see here on the plans, we've laid out some vegetation on the outside of the flood storage area, and on the inside there will be a wetland seed mix, which will be allowed to revegetate naturally. This is not within any of the easements that we are proposing. So the trees on the outside are buttonbush. I can't see I believe it's buttonbush, alder, and red maple, I believe. Okay, so here it's buttonbush and alder, and then red maple as well, and then a wetland seed mix. So that's what we'll be planting in the floodplain area. And then at the wetland replication area, here we have, as you can see, quite a dense amount of vegetation being proposed of similar species. Here there's gray dogwood and alder as well, so, and red maple, and a wetland seed mix as well. So it is thought out. It's not a straight line. It's not. So, you're welcome.
Okay, there was someone else, sir?
Hello, my name's Doug DeRocher, and I live at 6 Greenleaf. And Mr. King was nice enough to stop by my home this summer with an associate of his. We had a very nice conversation. You know, we're going to be affected quite a bit by this, but I understand the need for it. My concern, and I know it's been touched upon quite a bit, is, you know, a lot of the trees I was lucky enough to catch, I believe it was a wetlands botanist when she was out there. And she stated the majority of those trees were, I think, Norwegian maples, which she called junk trees.
Right.
And over the years, I see why they're called junk trees, because they're very unhardy. I had one that's about 12 feet away from my fence. I think it snapped off about 20 feet up, and it had the gall to jump over the fence and land on my 3-year-old shed. So, you know, I have concerns about those trees, the digging. I would rather those trees be removed and let nature take over after the fact. but all in all, I appreciate the city being so upfront with us and speaking with us about this project. Thank you.
Thank
Good,
you.
thank you.
Sounds like you might have met our coworker Maggie.
Yes.
Okay, briefly though, please.
Wasn't he already up here?
Again, John Bowner, 10 Greenleaf Drive, President Oak Knoll Pool. The other thing I just want to point out, and again, I don't know how you guys condition your decisions, but, and I think you'll see this clearly on your site visit, but the right-of-way that accesses Oak Knoll, or the Greenleaf Pool, is also about a 30-foot section of fence that runs from between my property at 10 Greenleaf and Doug's property at 6 Greenleaf with a wooden gate, which I understand through the town engineer that will most likely get destroyed or removed during the project. There's also a number of perennial plantings that are there that grow. So we would, again, just ask that throughout the project that is considered as, you know, the funding or whatever's put in to replace that fencing and gate and to, you know, replant the perennials that are there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we vote on this?
Is that it? Okay. Okay, I think this is a big project, and I think we need to get out there and see the site, so
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think everyone agrees on that, right? So,
And,
Are there flags where we need to see them? Yeah.
Depending on the day we decide to go out there, I can make sure we have something set so you can visualize.
just get us a good idea
Yeah.
about the scope of the project. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. King and I had also discussed inviting the neighbors and the public to that site visit as well, considering there's so many detailed questions and incidents, you know, experiences. I think it would be helpful to have the neighbors there as well, so I was,
Yeah, that's
would,
fine.
if
with
we
us.
could
There's
welcome them.
There's no property owner issues,
No.
so it's,
And
if
Steve
they're-
had
they want to be there.
supported
that's
that.
Yeah, I mean, I
There's
think
some
that's,
private property, but.
yeah, I mean, primarily besides the pump station, all the rest of it is private property, so we'd
Okay.
obviously
But it's- we'll get-
want to get the approval of the abutters and their, to be able to walk through their property to kind of get a lay of where
Yeah.
the sewer easement's going to be.
Okay, so Georgia, can you and Steve work together? And
Steve and I can work together, and maybe a couple of the, I can coordinate with the neighbors to figure out what works for everyone, or I can get everyone's email after the meeting if they want to join that visit. I'll make sure
it
we
would
get in
probably
touch.
have to be a weekend day.
Yeah,
I
we would
think,
definitely
just
want to
now
do a
it's-
weekend morning is usually what we aim for. That way everyone can make it a Saturday or a Sunday. So
Yeah, 'cause not
we'll see
daylight,
what
it's
Dark
short
works.
supply. Yeah. Okay, so if someone can make a motion, we continue to, are we gonna be able to do that in a month?
I suggest doing the December 8th meeting, and
Okay, so
we will do
continue
it as fast as
December
we
8th, and
can.
we'll go from there.
I move we continue this matter to our next meeting, December 8th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and you
thank you.
guys will work out
Thank
a date for a site visit?
Yeah.
Okay, since you get going, why don't you
Thank
make a
you.
motion? If you
Okay.
adjourn. Okay,
and
I'm
I-
sorry, before we do that, Mike. Is there any more old or new business to
No.
consider? Nope, okay.
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
I got a long
Okay.
drive ahead.
All right, Mike.